as this is your healthier story, the story is always the big part that comes out in these interviews. And you went from one of traditional dentistry, probably placing mercury fillings into other people's mouths, and then having to go through something and struggle and actually have your own health issues. Can you take us through what that was like being a dentist and having issues caused by dentistry?
Yeah. So obviously I didn't know that it was caused by dentistry.
Yeah.
I was practicing and practicing just like I thought that I would for years and years to come. My father was a dentist. And so I was practicing with him and I'd watched him. He's still in his 70s, and he's still working. He's still practicing. And I just thought that that's how it went.
Mm.
And I started getting sick, but that's not a unique thing. There's a lot of people that struggle with health, and I had gut issues, and I swear everybody has some sort of gut issue today. So again, that wasn't that unique, but some of my challenges that were really big, that worse, I felt some unique is I was having a lot of memory issues to the point that I wasn't even remembering a patient's name from room to room.
Mm.
And I've always had a very good memory. So it was a pretty drastic change from what I'd had. But the big one was numbness. I had such bad numbness in my hands that I actually wasn't even able to hold instruments anymore. And that doesn't work when you're a dentist. You
Nope.
actually have to be able to have good dexterity. You have to be careful and do very fine movements. And I couldn't do it. So I went to every doctor, did, tests, MRIs, blood tests. I mean, everything over and over and over again. I was seeing chiropractors and massage therapists, and everybody was trying to keep me put together, and it just wasn't working. And so I actually had my practice for sale
Mm.
and was going to do, I don't know what, I was trying to figure out what my next steps were. That's when I really started getting into nutrition, when I was trying to heal my own gut. So I was changing and finding out about nutrition. And eventually in that process, I talked with a practitioner, and he said, you sound so much like me. Have you looked into mercury poisoning at all?
Mm.
And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any mercury fillings. I mean, in dental school, they teach us that the fillings in the mouth that we put in the mouth, these silver fillings, are actually 50% mercury, but I didn't have any of them. So I said, well, I don't have any fillings. And he said, oh no, it's not the fillings you have. It's the ones you've been drilling out for the last decade with no protection. And that literally was the very first time I had ever heard that could be a problem. And not any doctors I talked to, nobody had talked to me about that this could potentially be the issue. So I had nothing to lose. So I said, all right, well, let's get tested and see. And that's what it was, mercury toxicity off the charts. So at that point, I had a decision to make, because the doctor said, there's no way you can get better if you're going to keep putting it in. You can't get it
Mm.
out if you keep putting it in. So you have to figure out a way to do this in a different way. And that's really where my transformation started, is I had to find out, was there a different way? Was there a different way to do dentistry for my own health? It wasn't even for my patient's health at that point. It was for me to stay in the profession. But very quickly, it became about my patient's health as well. I said, wow, if this was in my own profession, and I knew nothing about it until I myself felt sick, fell ill from this. What else could be related to the mouth and health and all of these things? And it's since grown into a huge practice now that we have multi-specialty clinic and help people from all over the world. And it's definitely not a path or trajectory that I would have expected, because I didn't know that this could even happen. That's the
Yeah.
big, I didn't even know it could happen.
And that's the thing with dentists. They are all have, I think, benevolent, wants and needs for their patients, for everyone. But it's just this misinformation around it. And I've heard multiple stories from biological and holistic dentists about, well, how it all started, hundreds of years ago. They needed something malleable, and they were crossing over, the Atlantic, and it was easy to use and stuck in there and cheap, and all these other things about mercury and silver fillings, you could say.
Yep.
But we're in a day and age where we have such advancements, where things have quickly, evolved, and technology has allowed us to do so much. Why do you think, in your opinion, now that you've seen this, you've been aware of this, you've learned about it, why do you think we're still using this? I mean, there is a push, of course, now to get away from it, but it's still often in many people's mouths, and not many people are doing anything about it except, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still in mouths, and it's still being put in mouths. So there are practices in the US that are placing these fillings every single day still. And when I tell people that, they're shocked. They're like, what?
Yeah.
It's still no, because they'll be like, no, that's been banned, right? No, there's very much no. It hasn't been in other countries. There are about 12 12 other countries that have banned this, but not the US. So I do have my own opinion. This is completely my own opinion. I do have my own opinion based on why it hasn't changed in our country. And a large part of it is because the American Dental Association and even some of the other organizations that are, kind of the watchdog organizations in our country when it comes to health, their job is the American Dental Association's job is to protect the dentist. That we pay them, and that's their job, is to protect us. That's not necessarily protect, but just to take care of the dentists, the actual dentists in the profession. That's the American Dental Association's job, is to take care of the dentists. Well, if there was research that showed, or anything that said mercury can cause XXS, can cause these issues, there would be a class action lawsuit.
Yep.
And that would go against every single dentist who's ever placed or probably removed a mercury filling in their career, which would be every single dentist in the entire United States would be under class action lawsuit. That's just the way our society works. We're such a litigious society. And so the organization, like the American Dental Association, knows this. And so they know they can't let that happen. They can't open that bag of worms, basically. They can't do it. And so I don't believe it will ever be banned in the United States. They have cautioned against using it in women that are expecting or children under the age of 12. It might even be under the age of 6. So they've cautioned against that. But I don't think there's ever going to be anything that comes out and just says this cannot be used. It's going to be banned, because there's just too much risk of lawsuit. And you might think, oh gosh, well then we're hiding the truth. Well, that's why I'm here. That's why there's people like me that are sharing the truth, because we can. I'm not paid to protect the profession. I just want to help patients. I want to help And the good news is, so the only talk I had in dental school about mercury was that there was the dentist in Colorado, and he was telling patients that if they had their mercury fillings removed, that he could cure things like MS and other problems. And he lost his license to practice dentistry and never regained it. And that is the only talk that I had in dental school, is if you do this, you will lose your license. So it's not exactly going to help to engender me to say, hey, let's go spread this message. But when this became personal for me, when this became my story, all of a sudden I went, all right, it's time to start talking about this. And I can talk about it from my story, because no one can tell me my story's wrong. No one can sue me for my story. My story is my story, and it's very much real. It's my life. And I have since gone to find that there are actually there's a lot of research that's showing that mercury is a problem. And you don't have to find research. Oh my gosh, look at the news. We're not supposed to eat tuna anymore because of mercury. It's not like this is hidden. The information is there. You just have to be able to find it. And I can tell you things now about mercury because it is backed by research. I won't lose my license anymore. Now, I can't tell you that if you have MS, I'm going to be able to cure you. I cannot tell you that. But I can tell you that mercury is the most neurotoxic substance on the planet. I can tell you that it's released from fillings 24/7. I can tell you a lot of things. So those are the things that I tell you, because those are true.
Yeah, it is wild how you have to sometimes go into an organization's intent, what it's responsible for, to start to understand why these things happen. Just like you could look at the mainstream complex of conventional medicine, and you could say, well, pharmaceutical companies, their first fiduciary duty is to shareholders. That's really it, to maximize profits. That is their biggest duty, not to safety of the users or to anything else, right? And then you go down the line.
In a nefarious way, not even, oh gosh, they're so evil. No, that's just the business. That's the business model. And it just is what it is.
Yeah. And people sometimes have a hard time wrapping their heads around that, but that's the way it's always been. We've always kind of caught up with things. Science evolves, you learn, and you go on from there. And I am hoping in the next few decades, this is something that'll be phased out. You're right. Probably won't ever get to that point where they're like, sorry, we did that, because it would be massive action of lawsuits, but hopefully it could phase out of that.